Welcome to the Season for Speed podcast. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Matt. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Season 4 Speed, the number 4.
Please follow the podcast on Spotify, subscribe on iTunes, and leave a rating and review. This week we were able to get two comparisons together. We were able to get into 2011 A6 with the 3-liter supercharged engine, same as your S4. And then 2014 E350 with the 4MATIC to kind of give an all-wheel drive mid-level luxury comparison. And then following that up, we got into a 2013 Honda Civic Si and a 2016 Subaru WRX. We know there's a little bit of a year gap there, but the price gap wasn't too incredible, and that kind of more entry-level, cheaper sports car seemed to be a good comparison to follow that up with. Getting into cars has been a little bit less of a challenge this week. We actually, through some contact on Facebook Marketplace, got in contact with a dealership called Daystarr Motors, and check out their website, Daystarr. It's star with 2 R's, daystarmotors.com. Andy, the owner there, was nice enough to let us get into the A6 that they had on their lot to use for comparison this week, and we're going to be going back there for following weeks to get into more and more stuff. It's helpful to be working with more dealerships like this with Daystarr and the AutoNation Ford and White Bear. It helps to keep up with getting new cars and getting cars that we can kind of curate into these better comparisons instead of just a jumble of what's for sale and what we can get into with private party shit.
Yeah, so it gives us, it also helps us get a wider range of vehicles to drive, more options, because Daystarr isn't like, come trade your car and it's a Ford, so a lot of people are going to come trade their Ford in for a new Ford. Daystarr's bringing in all types of different cars, different
really wide range of availability down there.
We'll see some stuff there that we probably would never see at Ford.
And it was really nice to know that the owner really genuinely is just a car guy.
Yeah,
you just sit down and bullshit with him for a little bit about he just got a RS7 tuned up with the trans tune and an engine tune. I think he said stage 1 or stage 2.
I think he said stage 2.
Stage 2.
He was pushing a lot of horsepower, he said.
Sounds like a really interesting guy, and we were happy to be able to sit down and just bullshit with him. And
yeah, he definitely knew his stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was kind of happy to let us do our thing. Just sees that we're just a couple of car guys and understands that, we're trying to do our own thing. This guy clearly owns his own dealership and has been making it work for himself for quite a long time now. I think over 20 years.
Long time. I think it's more than 20 years.
I think that he's been in this spot. I don't remember. I think he's been doing it longer than that. He's been around cars for fucking ever. But nice guy. He's got a nice lot, really clean lot. And then they were telling us about that warranty, quote unquote warranty that they kind of offer with some of the cars that they sell.
Oh, yeah. They give you their mechanics. So if you buy a car from their lot, they'll give you their mechanics deal whenever you need something fixed on the car. So if you bring it to them and have their mechanic work on it, they'll give you their rate for the work versus going to another shop, which is probably close to double what that rate would be.
And it's not a mechanic at the dealership here. He brings it to his own independent mechanic where he brings all of his shit.
Exactly. Very experienced.
Diagnose, they get it fixed for you. You bring it back there. He's not making a dime off you. He gives you his cost of getting stuff fixed.
Exactly.
And that's really nice. So you don't actually have to worry too much about getting something off of his lot. I think even just getting his price on going in and getting a diagnosis and then being able to do it yourself, you're still going to save yourself a lot of money.
Absolutely. It is a used car lot, so there are no brand new cars. So this is their idea of a warranty, in a sense. And
of what they can offer and what they can afford. And it works out really well.
It does.
It doesn't cost them anything to help you out and keep you in good spirits with them so you come back and buy another car from them at the end. It's a pretty good pitch to me. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I did too. I like that. I've never really heard that before, so that's something that makes them special. And they have a really good Google ratings. 4.5 stars out of 5, I think. A lot of good reviews. So they're they're pretty reliable. You can get good stuff there.
We got a pretty good big inventory. We pretty much got there right at closing as the owner was going through a sale. So we had time to get in one car that was on the lot. We went there looking at 3 and ended up getting in one just because, we both work full-time jobs and they close at 6 o'clock on weeknights, and that's right about when we can get out there. So
Yeah.
we got in this A6, and it was actually a really nice car. It's extremely clean for, what was it, 110,000 miles?
110,000
It
miles.
basically has a broken latch on the center console, and that was that was it? A little plastic piece falling off the back of the seat?
Yeah, it's super easy stuff to repair.
But
like,
other than that,
cheap.
everything was still...
They're only asking just under 10 grand for this car, too.
$10,000. That's what really put this one to the side for me, that really set it apart, was that it's only $10,000.
And it's a lot of car for $10,000.
That is a lot of car for $10,000.
Yeah.
Like, when you're comparing it directly with the Mercedes was... Let me look and check, see the price before we get to that one.
I think it was like 17 and a half.
It's... Yeah, damn near 18 grand.
Yep.
So there's a big price difference here, and if you're not looking at the price, you notice that difference in interior quality and exterior styling quite a bit. But when you take the price into account, what you're still getting for 10 grand in this still comes really close to what you would be getting for 18 in the Mercedes.
Oh yeah, it was. I was impressed, honestly, for the price, the condition this car was in. It ran super smooth.
Mm-hmm.
All the mechanicals felt really good.
And I was taking pictures of it. I was like, there's no way that these inner fenders are not going to be a little bit rusted out on this thing. It's clearly been a Minnesota car its whole life, and feeling around on it, it's rust-free.
Yeah, it's a beautiful car.
It's super clean.
Amazing shape.
It's my least favorite interior color, cream. I'll complain about light cream interior every time in any car ever. It's a girl car.
I don't hate the cream as much as you do, but the wood inlay, the fake wood inlay, is not the greatest thing Audi's ever came up with.
No, it looks like clear plastic painted over plywood. That got wet at one point.
Yeah, I don't even have words for it.
That's my description of their wood inlays.
The aluminum is much better.
The aluminum that your car came with, that option, much better.
Because the B8 S5 we drove had the wood inlay too, but it was the dark wood. I really hated that as well. Like, I just thought it was gross. It didn't look authentic.
This is still pre-facelift on the 6 too.
Yeah.
So we got into a previous generation. You know, the Mercedes that we got into is post-facelift for that generation. Yeah, that one had still been going since 2010, and it's generally the same. That was a facelifted car. But this is a pre-facelift and $8,000 less, and
Mercedes
a little bit more miles.
Has the more aggressive lines anyways, though. That's just their thing versus Audi.
Exterior-wise, yeah.
Yeah.
But interior-wise, too, just kind of the feel of things. Like, we were talking about the feel of the leather on these seats. It felt cheap.
The Napa leather versus this is big
extremely
difference.
Different. Yeah, this felt like not a Chevy fake, but definitely not what you would expect for. I didn't even think it felt as good as the leather in some of the Volkswagens that we've been in, like the
which one?
What were we just in last week? The GLI.
Yeah.
That had like really nice feeling, good leather.
Yeah, it did. I agree with that.
This felt kind of rubbery and fake compared to that even, which was kind of sad to see, because this is their kind of mid-level luxury car, even though it may be not the highest package, but even with, you can't get a higher package for an A6 with this engine for higher leather.
I think you can.
Not from what I could find.
Really, the sport package doesn't come with that?
The sport package, you can get different seats, but the leather is still the same.
Interesting. You can't get the Napa leather.
Not until you get into the S. Even in an S line. Which, didn't this have an S-line badge somewhere on it?
It did, because it had some S-line piece somewhere. That's the one thing I don't like that Audi does, is if you have just even the slightest piece of, like, the side skirt, if that's the only S-line thing you have.
What do you think was the S-line on this? I can't find one S-line piece, but it certainly has an S-line badge slapped on the side. Bumpers, normal. Headlights, normal. Taillights, normal.
I don't know,
No spoiler. No side skirts. No sport seats.
Premium wheels.
Premium wheels, huh?
That's what I'm seeing.
That's what gets you the S-line.
Maybe.
Very nice. Okay, well, the wheels do look nice. You got
they do look good.
Like 10-spoke chrome.
They're in good shape, too.
Yeah, they are. They weren't all road rashed up and destroyed.
Okay, I will say about the seats, though, as, you know, the leather wasn't super impressive. The comfortability was.
Incredibly comfortable. They're plush.
They weren't as adjustable as the Mercedes seats, but they were still they had a lot of adjustable
It was
features.
upsetting that you couldn't adjust the thigh up and down on the passenger seat in the Audi.
But very comfortable
It's
seats.
extremely comfortable.
They're amazing, honestly.
Along with where everything was kind of laid out button-wise and control-wise for your ergonomics of when you're sitting in the car, everything was laid out really nice. The dash was laid out very nice. The center console where you grab on everything, very nice. Shifter doesn't actually get in the way of a whole lot. Ugly steering wheel, ugly four-spoke steering wheel that I'm not a big fan of.
I'm not either. It looks way outdated.
The buttons on it were fine. They were laid out okay, and there wasn't a billion of them, but still ugly. Couldn't deal with it. The integration of the actual screen into the dash.
It's the same as mine.
Yeah, it's not bad. I like it.
Well, not the same. Very similar, though.
But yeah, they just kind of wrap it in all in the same line instead of adding an extra hump like BMW does for their old models. Which they were still doing in 2011, which is this model year.
No, this interior is going to be pretty similar to mine because it is still. I understand like this isn't a B8 because that's not what those are. Those are Cs.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that just that
the design of it.
Yeah, those few years of Audi, how their interiors were. They had similar features and stuff.
That's what makes me kind of sad about the newer and newer we get with cars. Like, you used to really be able to tell the difference between the 4, 6, and 8 on the interiors. And same with BMW. You used to really be able to tell the difference between the 3, 5, 6.
Now they're all the same.
And 7s. Yeah, everything was completely different, a fully different layout. You got completely different switch gear in each and every class. And now everything is just a smaller and smaller version of the big one. So that you get in the small one and, it's this little thing is like the big one, so maybe one day I can trade up and get the big one that actually has this real stuff. But for right now, this will do. I don't like that. I like to have like actual layers to moving up through the cars.
It's a different model. It should be a different car.
Yeah, I don't like when they model the smallest one after the big boy.
There's just no...
I just want it to be different. I don't want to be, this kind of feels like the big one.
I know what you're saying.
And I like... This kind of reminds me of the IS350 with the F-Sport package in it. When you get the F-Sport in the IS350 or even the GS350s, the F-Sport package comes with a completely different gauge cluster that is mimicking the LFA. Why? It's cool, but why do you got to do that?
Well, you just said you wanted different. Okay, I get what you're saying.
Now you're getting the same cluster in the IS, the GS, and then you get all the way up to the LFA, and you have the same shit that's in the base model, or not the base model, but the lowest model.
The way low model.
I think it takes it away from the top, and it takes away from the bottom, and just not being different.
It should just be its own thing.
Its own thing that should be progressive.
That's what makes cars classics too. Is like in the future when they had their own thing. That's like, hey, that's cool because of this.
I want that because of that interior because it had this very specific part to it. Yeah. Which they just don't have.
I get what you're saying. We're working away from that because everything needs to be. I get what you're saying.
That's what I really like about the early 2000s BMWs is that it's my favorite generations for them because everything was completely different throughout every class you went up. Some of the radios and stuff may have been the same, but the actual layout and design of the interiors completely different in all the cars.
Yeah. Okay. How did you like the ride in the Audi?
If you're buying this car with no sport package in it, you're clearly intending to never drive this car with sporty intentions.
Right.
And it does the non-sporty thing very well.
Yeah,
it was like riding on a cloud. I expected an 8 to be this comfortable.
This was very impressive.
We were riding on some really rough roads downtown
in the middle of winter,
up onto the freeway
in the middle of winter with ice everywhere. Like it's
incredibly comfortable. Yeah. You don't hear anything that's going on outside the car.
You don't feel it either.
You don't feel a single thing. That kind of speaks to again the steering and again no sporty intentions with this car whatsoever.
Extremely numb.
Really numb, really floaty. It's not telling you anything.
A ton of body roll.
The whole car kind of sinks into a corner.
Easily, yeah. It's heavy, though. It's
really heavy, and you really feel how much weight is out in front of you, especially when you're going to take a corner.
Yeah.
The car does great in a straight line, especially at cruising speeds. You're going at 70 miles an hour just down the freeway. It's a boat. It's like driving an old Cadillac, but much more comfortable because it's just gonna float.
And modern.
And modern.
It's
the
great.
actual screen of it, I liked.
I did too. It wasn't
didn't
bad.
go very deep into your options. Like when we were in the Mercedes, every option you clicked on gave you a sub menu and then options and then a sub menu and then options.
But like
this was just kind of scroll through, click an option. It was much easier to use,
user friendly.
but it was also much more basic, and you didn't get as much.
User friendly is nice to have though, because not everybody wants to go through 12 sub menus to adjust
and
how tight their steering is. It's like
menus
why
at
can't I
all
just
for
click
one
two
are
of these
not
buttons?
for me. I can go without any of all of that shit.
You just want the buttons.
I just want one sport mode button. That's it.
Yeah, that's all you need.
That's it.
Yeah.
If it's going to change all my dampers and everything, cool. I think it's cool that in the Mercedes or in the BMWs you can go through and change your steering and your throttle and your transmission and your engine and your suspension. Like, you can change all that shit individually and save it in a setting. So you only have to go through and adjust it all once, and then you leave it on one button. You click that button and you get your setting of where you like everything.
But that is cool.
But I don't want to go in and change everything every time to get it. Like with the, I mean, this one you didn't get any kind of options of that, and you didn't get any of those options in the Mercedes.
I think
either.
there was a sport mode. Yeah, there's a sport mode in this one.
Yeah, you get a sport mode when you pull the shift all the way down, and that
Yeah.
basically gives you
More throttle response.
a little bit more throttle response, and your gears will stretch out.
Yeah,
it doesn't make the car feel very much faster.
No.
As for the torque, what we love about your car is all the download torque. This car still kind of has that.
It's the same motor.
So it's tuned down how much?
30. I think it has 300 horsepower, so like 33 or
yeah,
something.
300 compared to your 330.
But it's extremely noticeable.
It is really
because the car is
far more noticeable than you
heavier.
really thought it would be.
The car's heavier. The suspension's squishier.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it's what the 0-60 is almost a second and a half slower,
Yeah,
which is
there's
kind
nothing
of
set
surprising.
up about the car for performance, and it does the luxury thing fairly well, I think.
But if you need to get up to speeds or get some, pass on a 2-lane highway, it'll do that. It's not slow.
It still has pickup, and especially when it downshifts and actually lets you go.
Yeah.
And you, again, don't feel like you're really going that fast. The number's moving up decently quick, but you don't feel it. You don't get that nice big
you're just
shove
floating.
from your car. Exactly.
Because
the suspension just soaks that up and sinks you into those nice big plush seats, and you just go right along.
It's comfortable.
Oh yeah.
That's how I would
riding in this
describe
car.
that. Yeah,
it was incredibly comfortable,
great.
and there was not a squeak to be heard from the whole car.
No, it was solid. The build quality was amazing.
The build quality was great.
We know Audi does that though.
Even so they had those two little plastic pieces broken.
Yep.
Even with those broken, there's no rattles in the car.
It was great.
Everything was still just going down the road solid as hell, going over big ass bumps, and it's just boom, boom, boom.
I was surprised with the difference in the build quality between the Mercedes and the Audi, because BMW and Audi
squeaks when you push on
BMW and Audi are like solid. Nothing makes noise. I figured, okay, Mercedes up to par. We got in that car and everything squeaked when you pushed on it. Not when you drove the car, but when you pushed on it.
And Mercedes is the one that, for a time, was kind of pushing towards we're the most luxurious of them.
On the
Audi
interior,
kind of pushed towards we're the most usable of them.
Yeah.
And BMW was like, well, we're going to give the best driving performance.
And Mercedes does do the luxury thing.
They do
really
the luxury
well.
They definitely, when you're sitting in it, make you feel like you're in a very luxurious cocoon.
I'm not saying that the plastics and stuff were bad. I'm just saying I was surprised with the difference between that and the Audi. They were still far and above better than like Ford or Chevy. It was great.
And the Audi still has how many more miles on it? Like 40,000 more miles? 30,000 more miles?
20, actually 20 here.
It's 3 years older as well. This is the pre-facelift, and it's still built completely solid.
Okay, so it's a 22,000 mile difference, 23,000 in between that range. So, and $8,000, what, 3 years? So 2014 versus 11?
I think.
Is it worth the price to move up the Mercedes for you? Would it be for you?
Once we get through talking about that one, maybe I'll decide.
Okay.
Because right now I like being cheap. I really actually love being cheap. It's like a great thing.
Yeah.
So I would
until you decided that you wanted a 335 to DoorDash for $12,000.
Yeah, but then
And then I had to talk you.
We just decided that was
bit.
not the case, and maybe an E46 somewhere in there was going to be
Much better.
a little better option.
Yeah.
But then that didn't work out. That's
Okay.
shit. We need to get through the Mercedes to make me actually decide on which one I'm going to take, because I think the driving of the Mercedes was so incredibly better than the Audi. But I don't know if it's $8,000 worth of it. The interior kind of makes me think, yeah, that's $8,000 worth better.
Well,
The exterior styling makes me think, yeah, this Audi's kind of ugly. I would really want that Mercedes, especially with the facelifted Mercedes being where I was kind of a fan of when they had the headlights broken up into those 4 squares in the front.
I did like that.
I
I've always
liked
liked
that.
Mercedes.
It was a really good look.
I don't think they've ever had really like horrible exterior designing.
No, because I'm a really, really big fan of the bug eyes.
Yeah, I
Like
like
a
them.
really
they
big
look great.
From all of their classes, the C, CL, CLK,
Yeah.
all the way up to the E. The S class didn't really carry that through, but I loved that look. That was a really good look for Mercedes. They moved into splitting those square headlights on front, but now this one with the facelift and the fully connected headlight really looks good, and it really flows through into the fenders and shit.
The fenders and shit.
The fenders and shit, dude. Look at where it goes up into the top.
I know, it looks good. I know it
looks
does.
so good.
I'm a fan. I am a big fan. I do think the exterior of this, and I hate to say it, but looks better than the Audi. Honestly, but
because what did the Audi get with a facelift so that we can actually make a straight comparison? I know it didn't get a brand new bumper.
It didn't get new body lines or anything. It's going to look very similar. It's going to have little
New
features,
lights,
just like the
basically.
B8. So the B8.5, it's going to be small features.
Yeah.
It's not going to change the car drastically. I personally agree with you. I like the Mercedes exterior better. But then again, it is a 3-year newer car, and it is $8,000 more. So, with that in mind, I think I'm still on the Audi train. But as you said, I think once we get through this car, there are some things that I'm seeing just flipping through the pictures.
This comes with, like, already integrated into the bumper, a really nice lip down on the bottom. I like that.
I do too. Are those vents real? They look real to me.
Oh, shit, I forgot to check. I'm usually a stickler, and I didn't even check. I really liked, actually, the light-up emblem. I thought that was kind of cool. I don't like how they duplicate it and put the one up on the hood still and then have the one in the grill. Yeah, I wish they would. I would just tear the one off the front of the hood and the bumper if it was.
Well, okay, so my question is,
mine.
why is that one sticking up on there when they have the little blue one that just sits in the hood, the little inlay? That one looks so much better anyways.
Because the one sticking off the hood is supposed to give you that retro Mercedes.
It doesn't fit on this car.
No, not at all.
It's
I don't
out
like
of
it.
place.
I wish it would go away.
You can make it go away if you buy this car.
Yes, and I would right away.
Easily.
Because the light up one on the front is more than enough and kind of cool on its own.
But then you got a hole in your hood from where this is supposed to be.
No, you just don't worry about that.
Really?
Yeah, you just let it be. You just cut it off. Maybe. Depends on how it's attached.
It's supposed to be a Mercedes. You can't just have a...
I wouldn't want it on there.
I wouldn't want it. They messed up.
Needs to
They
go.
messed up with that. I hope it's a stick-on.
And now the new ones, they have it just on the hood as like a little emblem, like BMW size, and then they still have the big grill one. I don't get it. I wish they would just not do
You
that.
only need one. We understand. We get it.
It's a Mercedes.
The person driving the car gets it. They can look at the steering wheel and see what we get it.
Mercedes. The rear end of it looks kind of fat and bloaty.
It looks like every Mercedes from this era.
Yeah, but I like that the line actually goes all the way across and that it matches with their nice dual exhaust down at the bottom with the fake chrome tips. It looks nice.
Yeah, it doesn't look too bad.
It works.
It's not sporty by any means, but it's
No.
not supposed to be.
The rear 3/4 is nice. They actually have body lines that go all the way through. It comes through both door handles evenly and stops.
I thought you didn't like the double hump in the doors like that. Because my Nissan had that a little bit, and you weren't a fan of it.
Yours had rolling fenders into a non-crisp, weird line that came halfway through the bottom of the back door, and then your front fender also rolled into a weird line that came halfway through the front of your front door.
But they were similar lines.
This has a line that goes all the way from, if you look at the back of the trunk, the bottom of that chrome strip follows all the way through the taillight, wraps all the way around, goes all the way through a line, straight through both doors, into the fender, into the front wheel, and then into the front bumper. That's a properly placed line
That is
that's
true.
designed well.
I like it. I'm just giving you grief for it, man.
I just couldn't do the Mercedes.
It's not a Nissan.
Or not the Nissan.
It wasn't that bad.
It wasn't the worst. The inside of the Mercedes definitely stands apart.
Yeah,
from
much better. The
the
wood
Audi.
inlay actually looks really good.
It does. It's like a darker,
And it
deeper
looks like
wood.
wood.
I wonder if the light cream Mercedes come with a nice light cream, weird, ugly textured wood like the Audi was. But this one has nice black leather everywhere and the darker wood trim. It works. You weren't a fan of the gauge cluster.
No, only because it just doesn't seem to fit the car. It just seems out of place. I don't hate the way it's designed. It just doesn't feel like it fits the car to me. You got all this nice wood inlay, and then you have this like sporty.
Yeah, kind of aluminum outlined with these
Yeah,
white light up dash.
Yeah, like it looks like it's
The
about to
needles and
be
stuff.
in something fast and sporty
Mhm.
and fun. And
That gives you a little bit of the sport. Same with the steering wheel. The steering wheel
it's
is
definitely yeah.
so what we could find on here is this has the luxury package, which is the comfort seats and the soft touch everywhere, and then some leather on the center console area. But then it comes with a cost-free sports appearance package, which gives you the steering wheel and the wheels and a little bit different grille with the light-up grille.
It's cool that it's cost free.
It's nice.
I don't know why that would be cost free, but take it if you can.
That's
Why
what
would
it
you
says.
not do it?
Yeah, I mean, this steering wheel, I think, is a huge upgrade over whatever the other. I didn't even look at what the other option was
Definitely.
because the steering wheel fits the car really nice and works. I'm not too big a fan of flat bottom steering wheels in cars that aren't actually sports cars.
I think they're more comfortable, in my opinion, because you have more room to like get in and out of the car. You don't have
I
to.
could agree with that.
The last two cars I've owned, it has a flat bottom, and I found it just to be like ergonomically more comfortable to get. I understand like the sporty feel to it, like it's not a sports car. I get that point of it, but like I'd rather have that appearance and be more comfortable than not have that.
Just for whatever usability.
Yeah, exactly.
I can understand that. That makes sense. I wouldn't gripe about it if this was my car. I wouldn't complain about the steering wheel. I think it looks good. I think
do
it's
too.
actually thick enough to be comfortable. It's soft enough to be comfortable to hold on to. It still gives you a luxury feel instead of an overly sports car feel when it's not trying to be a sports car. It's trying to be a nice luxury car with a little tiny bit of sport flavor to it.
I'll put it this way: the steering wheel is like the most modern part of the interior. That's the feel it gives me. The whole interior is like, okay, 2014. The steering wheel is like 2020.
They made some slight updates, but everything else is pretty much from 2010 when the car came out.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels that way. The screen was updated, and the infotainment on it is really nice. It's easy to scroll through everything, and it may be taking you a little bit to get used to because there are so many options in there. Everything you click on gives you not just click into it and then yes or no you want that or up or down for that setting. It gives you a subcategory to go through multiple options in that section to customize the different interior features and the lights outside the car and the horns that honk and the seats and the infotainment and the gauge cluster and all this different shit. It had that really nice ambient lighting. You're always a stickler for cars that don't have ambient lighting.
I don't
right?
like it.
Makes you
Why
feel-
not just put lights in the car? There's no reason that this car should not have
Especially
lights.
when you're going for this modern luxury feel.
Absolutely. Like, what do you? I
And
understand.
it was
Like,
nice.
you're.
They actually lit up nice, and they were where they were placed underneath the dash and in the doors.
These were the
Very
blue
nice.
ones, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think the blue fit the car. It's like a luxury car, and you have this weird bright baby blue that like was in
We
this.
could not go through to find to change the colors, but I'm almost positive you're going to be able to with how many options you had in this.
I'd hope so, but it was like the same blue that you get in the F-150, and like, okay, that works in the F-150, but this is a luxury car.
True.
It shouldn't be like a hey fun blue. No, it should be like a nice white or like a. You know what I
agree.
mean? Like
Orange.
Orange or
Orange
like,
is my favorite.
yeah.
Orange is kind of sportier though. We didn't talk about the engine bay on the A6. That was something that we wanted to mention
Oh yeah.
So when we took apart your car in my shop, we found that where they put the washer bottle is inside of the fender.
Strange.
It's just where they place it because that's why you have so much extra room in your engine bay, and that's why it's so easy to work on your shit.
Yeah.
It's because they really spaced everything else out nicely.
Which is smart. It's good engineering.
The A6 the way that they've engineered that, you can tell that the inner fenders, where they come in, are a much bigger, wider area.
Yeah.
And you can tell that when you look down in the fender well, or the wheel well area, there's not that much room in there for a tire. It doesn't have that big of tires on it. It's like 225s. That area in there, that whole big gap that you can't see, that you can only access by taking the wheel and the liner out,
It's just covering stuff.
is covering shit.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of shit all packed
Well,
down
it's
in
the
there.
same motor that's in my car. So
But it looked like it had far less room to actually access.
It did.
Yeah, because of where those inner fenders come all the way in.
But if you look under my hood, you can see exactly what it is covering.
Mm-hmm.
It just has the fender over that part versus in my car it doesn't, which I would much rather have the open engine bay to work on it and stuff. Yeah, it was significantly less space.
Much more spacious, but I like that. You know what? I really like in the Mercedes that they have this nice big flat cover covering the whole top of the engine, and then they kind of have everything separated back into the back corners by the strut towers.
Yeah.
That's nice. It's a good layout. It looks very clean and smooth and kind of really hits that luxury feel of open up your hood and just see a nice big flat plastic area of covered
engine
area. You know, it looks very uniform and nice and tidy.
It does.
But I also like when you open up the Audi hood and it looks kind of sporty. You've got some red valve covers. You've got the red coil or injectors or whatever those are. Yep. Are those the coils up top?
Yeah, they are up top.
They look nice.
They do.
It looks a little sporty. It doesn't need this big engine cover. It hits the luxury feel a little bit less in that.
The supercharger kind of covers the engine, and then the way
and it gives it that nice like aluminum block look on top.
Yeah, and the way the intake comes off the side of the motor, it also covers a lot. I honestly like the look of this a lot more.
Of the Audi?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a much sportier look.
It is.
I think
it is.
But
it has a luxury feel too, and I think that might just because it's like okay, Audi rings. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that looks like an S4 should look to me. You know, not the luxury area. I think it looks good.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it looks bad.
No, I hear you.
I'm just saying it's not hitting its category as well as the Mercedes on that part.
That's fair. It does look cleaner covering all that stuff up, I will say.
Yeah. So the Audi has the premium wheels on it, and I like them. The more spaced out 5-spoke look is nice. They're chrome. It's nice. I, again, turn to the Mercedes, and I like these wheels better. They're the 5-spoke parallel AMG wheels, and
I like them
they
a
look
lot.
really aggressive. They fit the car really nice. They're kind of that aluminum color. They work really well. This car's optioned really well. I like the black on this kind of
wood,
dark gray exterior paint
with the nav package.
With the nav package is nice. It's optioned up really well.
It's gray.
I don't mind this gray.
I
really don't mind this gray.
But
it was like a really nice metallic.
Right, but like, there's so many other colors.
There are so many other colors.
Gray, like I get it. It is not a horrible gray or silver, but it's still a gray or a silver, and it's just like, that's really.
I'm more a fan of grays than I am of silver.
I am too. They look better. I agree. It depends on the car, though.
Agreed.
It really does depend on the car.
Did the Audi have a backup camera?
I believe so.
I thought it did. I actually thought it was pretty nice.
No, that was the Mercedes that you're impressed with.
Oh, that's right. It's got like track along both
sides. The Audi
sides
did have it. I don't know. Let me check if it had the nav package.
Okay.
But I think it did. It definitely had the backup cam. Hold on. I'll check. You read about that for a minute.
You were less of a fan of the interior button layout on the Mercedes.
Oh, we don't need the numbers.
I could also agree on. That's unnecessary.
Yeah, we don't
no
need
longer needed. We don't need to have 1 through 9 and 0. It's not. Get rid of it. It makes the car look extra dated. The fake aluminum plastic feel of the main dial in there. I mean, it clicks nice as it turns, but I don't like that they used plastic as fake aluminum over it. When just right below that, they have real aluminum buttons for your heated seats, your hazard lights, the rear sunshade. That's a really nice set of buttons right there. Why did they have to go cheap on the radio infotainment controls?
Okay.
Kind of pissed me off.
I got to stop you for a second.
Go ahead.
I do not think, from what I'm reading, that the Audi had a backup camera.
Then it was the Mercedes one that I liked a lot.
Yeah, well, I know that for sure because that was a much tighter spot we had to back that into. And I remember you, like, turning it on. You're like, whoa, that's cool. It was definitely the Mercedes. Yeah, this doesn't have a backup cam, but it does have navigation. So, you know.
Did I mention the clock about the Mercedes yet?
No, you have not mentioned
I really liked the clock.
I do like the clock.
It has an analog clock in the center below the screen and above the buttons. And I liked that about my 2006 Fusion that I had. I liked having the analog clock in there. It was cool.
It is nice. Yours was much cheaper.
It was much cheaper. It didn't look this nice. This actually looks really nice. And mine also didn't light up. This lights up. I wonder if that blue that was behind this also changes if you can change the interior ambient lighting, if it changes the color behind the clock too.
That would be really
That would be really cool, but we didn't get into finding that out.
No, that was really deep in the menu if it was there at all.
The actual build quality of where we ended up in the Audi and the Mercedes was
way better in the Audi.
Far different.
It was.
Everything in the Mercedes was kind of creaky to the touch.
Flexible, creaky, not solid.
But that's when you're pushing on it and touching it. But then when you're actually driving down the road,
none of it.
You're still getting no rattles, a silent ride.
The center console.
What about it?
It's so cool. The double-sided with the latch.
Oh, right. Yeah. You can open one side at a time.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite parts about Lucy's Mercedes is you can because then someone doesn't have to move their arm off the center armrest when you're trying to get into your shit.
And it's big enough for two elbows.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's good. It's well done.
Quality design, and I like that you have some of your radio controls. Actually, I don't like that. I just realized that is some radio control.
What do you mean?
I don't like that you have partial radio control on the top here. Hold on, I'm going to flip through these pictures really quick here. There's a dial down on the center by where I like to have it to control your screen. And then there's also a dial up in the center stack in the middle of all of the buttons, in the middle of where you have your 0 through 9 and shit.
And it does the same thing.
It doesn't do the same thing. It's your volume and then your fast forward and rewind and you're turning on and shit.
You have to reach up there.
Yeah, so you got to reach up there to adjust your volume and your track, but then you reach down below
to do the rest.
Yeah. Which you can also adjust your track with the one below if you select the right piece on the screen, but it's extra buttons. I don't like how they have that divided. That's kind of annoying.
I agree with you. The 1 through 9 ruins that whole button layout. It's just too much.
Yeah.
It looks like a freaking telephone.
The Audis, go ahead. I'm going to flip back to the Audi quick and see. I think they had all of their controls down below. I can't get a good picture of it, but I believe they had them all down below.
It has them down below like we had seen in the navigation S4s. All the controls are down there.
Yep, no radio controls above. Oh, and this had the nice little screen for the showing the HVAC controls.
Yeah, it did. I did like that.
It was kind of annoying that you had to click through what you wanted the dial to control. It was nice that they cleaned it up and put one dial there, but then it wasn't really nice that you had to select what you wanted the dial to do.
It wasn't super ergonomical or user-friendly. Yeah, no, it wasn't. It looked clean, though. I mean, it wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen. Now, if you had to choose one for the price, like if you had to justify the car for the price.
Well, let's talk about driving the Mercedes, and then I'll be able to justify spending more on it.
Okay.
Because driving it is a completely different experience than being in the Audi.
It is.
The Audi makes you think the only thing it can do is bomb down a highway in the most comfortable way possible.
And that's all it really can do.
And that's all it really can do. The Mercedes, you still get a very quiet ride on the inside, but
not
as quiet, but you're feeling the bumps more. The suspension is a little bit tighter.
Yep.
Which helps with the body roll.
Absolutely.
And
it still had a lot of body roll.
It did still have a lot of body roll, but it also helps when you put this one in sport mode where it's actually, you feel decently confident going through a corner. This thing was really stable, especially even at higher speed corners.
Yeah.
The car feels heavy, but the heaviness of the car also makes it feel very planted.
It did feel really planted. The understeer was not very present.
No, and it came on very slowly and very noticeably, and the car actually kind of told you when that was going to be happening. The Audi just pretty much plowed.
And yeah, the performance in that aspect of these cars. Now, speed-wise, they are basically the same. Like 0 to 60 time, I think it's 0.1 second different.
It's essentially the same, and they felt essentially the same, even though the Mercedes, you maybe had to wait for it to downshift completely to get any kind of power.
Yeah.
The Audi, you could kind of step on it and get a little torque shove,
But that's just
and then it would downshift and give you a little bit even more
that's
power.
just a supercharger.
Yeah, and that helped it a lot in that aspect.
But they are the same speed essentially.
Yeah. The responsiveness of putting the Mercedes into manual mode and using the paddle shifters was far more responsive for the time it took to take a shift,
but it didn't
compared to the Audi.
It didn't
but it did not want to
gear.
hold a gear, and
Yeah.
it did not want to listen to you. It always thought, it really wouldn't let you go down a gear if it was going to put you anywhere within like 1,500 RPM of redline.
Yeah.
Even like 2,000 RPM of redline.
It would just shift.
It wouldn't let you get that close. Yeah. And when you're wanting to downshift to really take that speed down, or you're going into a nice corner, you want to be able to have the transmission fucking listen to you. Or if you leave it in automatic mode, driving a BMW, putting it in sport mode, you're leaving it in automatic. If you just tap your foot to the floor and let go all the way completely, it holds that gear all the way until you get your steering input straight and give it more throttle input. It'll shift.
Okay.
That's how their sport program is programmed. It's really nice.
That is nice.
The Mercedes does not fucking listen to you.
And that
Transmission was just shifting all over the place as it was driving. The control of it, terrible. The control of the car, of the steering feel and the ride comfort and the minimal body roll, the nice little sports steering wheel.
I wouldn't say the body roll is minimal.
I'd say compared to the Audi,
it was significantly less than the Audi, but it was not minimal. It was still very relevant.
It was still relevant. You still had it there, but compared to the Audi, it felt like a completely different car.
Yeah, but with that, you lose the comfortability because the Audi, like we said, rode like a cloud. This thing did not. It felt like you were in what could be a sports car with the way it rode, but it was still this heavy boat of a car, and it felt like a boat. You look over the hood of this car, and it's like, wow, this thing is 100% long. The Audi felt the same way. They both felt like big boat cars, so they didn't hide their size well.
I think with the amount of extra shit you have that could break on the Mercedes would push me away from it. I think that the driving experience is far better, but if I were to get an automatic, basically base model, mid-level luxury sedan, I would pretty much be looking for something to just cruise in.
Yeah.
Like eventually, I'd really love to get something like that will get better gas mileage for when you and I are going to do these drives, so that we have a car that we can split gas mileage on, we can split maintenance on, whatever, but it's going to be, we're driving all over the place to do these drives, and especially when we're doing private party, and especially when we start getting into going farther and farther away to find better and better cars to be driving for the podcast, we need something that we can just be putting miles and miles and miles on.
Yeah, we do.
If I wanted something like that I was just putting miles and miles and miles on, excuse me, it's going to be the A6.
Oh, absolutely. That was like if I had to sit and let's say we went on a road trip to Colorado like we did the one time. We went
This car is the road trip.
We went 14 hours in my Honda Accord.
Not bad. Honda Accord. It really wasn't that bad.
Until a deer ran into us. it ran into us.
Coming 75 miles an hour down the freeway,
even, dude,
and it literally comes running out of the field.
It wasn't even the freeway.
Asleep, just like looking out my window.
Oh, man. It wasn't. It was a 2-lane highway, and I'm coming up a hill, and I see this deer. So I slow down quite a bit, and it's 3 a.m, so there's nobody in the other lane. So I try to swerve over to the other lane a little bit, so give him some space. This man said, "Nope, not today," and ran right into the passenger door.
Bounced right off, ran away. Goodbye.
Yeah, awful.
Yeah.
Awful experience.
What are you gonna do?
I don't know if tag you're it was his idea or if he was having a hard home life, but
if we were doing another 12-hour road trip again, yeah, I'm spending $8,000 less and feeling just as fine in
much more comfortable.
I'm feeling much more comfortable. I can give up all the extra flashy shit to make me feel more luxurious.
Yeah.
And be in something more comfortable that's...
Well, you're not really giving it up because you're paying less for the car.
You're paying much less for the car.
I think you get more with the Audi.
Yeah, and then when you actually start shopping around at what's at $10,000 and what's at $18,000, your options are very open.
Absolutely.
At $18,000. Your options are very closed at $10,000.
They are.
Getting this much car for $10,000 with only 110,000 miles on it and the ability to have that, you know what, this dude's makeshift warranty
I was just
sets these cars apart in a lot of different
that.
ways.
That's funny that you mentioned that because I was just thinking about saying that. Is like, oh, you're scared to buy an Audi because expensive foreign parts.
Maintenance.
But if you're getting this guy's deal
This
with this car,
this isn't an upcharge
great.
on parts either. Okay, this owner takes your car to his independent mechanic, who is giving him already a deal on parts so that he can have, margin for profit on these cars that he's selling on his lot. He's going to pass that margin on to you. He's not selling the parts at an up cost. He's not selling the labor at an up cost. He's not selling the diagnosis. None of it. This makeshift warranty will pay for itself because you don't have to pay for it.
That alone
just get it by getting the car from him.
That alone makes buying a car like this worth it.
That gives you some solid feeling of security with that car.
Well, yeah, because you're fixing an Audi at the price of a Chevy.
Exactly.
And that's great.
Yep. And they say that, German maintenance and stuff might be 20 to 25% more than getting an American or Japanese built car. Okay, you're taking 50% off of
close
the maintenance.
To. We can't say 50, but close to.
Well, he said it was $125 for the regular maintenance there, and he's getting charged $65 an hour when people go through that.
So, yeah, close.
That's close to 50%.
Yep.
I don't know what the parts savings is, but I'd imagine it's at least 20%.
It's close. Yeah, it's probably.
So, yeah,
it's probably
you're right
good,
back down to any other car's maintenance costs.
If not cheaper.
And
you're in Audi.
And all of his cars that come to his lot go through this mechanic before they come to the lot because he doesn't want you coming back and always clogging up his shop with not good paying business. Yeah. That man still owns a shop too. He still needs to be working for that $125 an hour.
So he makes sure
that these cars are straight so they're not coming back to him because he knows they're coming back to him if they're not.
Exactly. And the nice part about this lot is they have every brand model, not every model, but every brand you want. They do have Chevys. They do have Lincolns and BMWs. They had a 335 that we wanted to drive, but it's on summer tires.
It's on summer tires, rear wheel drive.
Icy out.
Different time, if it's still there in a little while.
But my point is that you don't have to go buy an Audi because they don't specialize in just, foreign cars. You can go get any brand you want from them.
I'm really happy to find this dealership.
Yeah,
I actually really want to buy some kind of daily from them just to have that security of where I can go for my maintenance.
And they're priced very reasonable.
Honestly.
Yeah.
In a really good way. Yeah.
They do a good job. So check them out if you are looking for a used car. They can hook you up.
So if we had to come to a final decision on the Mercedes and Audi, I'd say the Mercedes is much, much nicer if you're willing to pay for it, but I don't think that the price gap is worth what you're getting if you're just buying a cruiser.
Absolutely not.
If you're just buying a car to cruise in and you don't need to have all that clout of all these light up grills and the extra LEDs and it's nicer looking on the outside and maybe that's a huge stickler to you. It's nicer looking on the inside. Maybe that's a huge stickler to you. But if you're buying the car for a user car to use as a daily, I think the Audi wins for $10,000. That saves you money to put more money into your sports car.
I can confidently say that the Audi is probably more reliable too, because that 3.0 is a good engine.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have to agree with you. For the price, the Audi is a steal.
Ending on Audi, I like it. I do not think that the next matchup is even
fair.
It's not fair. It's not close, but they were on the lot and they're somewhat comparable, so we just kind of went for it. They're about $3,000 difference in price between the 2013 Civic Si,
which kind of made us feel like they could be comparable.
2016 WRX. So since they're decently close in price, we might as well just get in. Here's what you can get.
Okay, so let's put it this way though: the Honda is a 2013, the WRX is 2016. That $3,000 could be.
When you're shopping in this price range, it could be a big difference to you even. Yeah. But when you are asked, what's a good sports car for under $20,000? Well, here's two options of cars that are intended to be the sporty versions.
One that does it pretty well, actually very well, impressed me, and one that is
really falls short.
I don't understand the fascination. Let's just start with this one because
we'll start with the Civic because let's say underwhelming.
I have always disliked Civics. I've never understood the fascination. I understand the reason why people get them. They're cheap, they're reliable, they're cheap to mod. There's a huge mod market. I get it. It's great if that's your intention with the car. But if you're buying this thing to say, hey man, I got a sports car. What? No, you don't.
And you know what? I'm going to pause really quick. I'm becoming far and far more appreciative of stock factory performance. What does it come from the factory? Am I maintaining this car to keep it at a fun level because it's already fun the way that I bought it, and anything I add to it is just going to enhance that even more? Or am I getting a car from the factory that requires upgrades? That if I don't upgrade it and I'm just going to maintain it and keep it where it's at, I'm not going to have fun with it.
That is the difference between these cars.
I need to have a car that starts from the factory at a great spot.
Yeah.
Even if it's not blow your fucking socks off, crazy fast, incredible performance, the tightest thing in the world, great snap, no. It doesn't need to have all of that craziness from the factory, because those things can be lightly upgraded and tuned and adjusted and fixed to the exact point where you want them.
Yeah.
But it can't be a fucking basket case from the start.
Is that how you're trying to describe the
I'm
Civic?
describing the Civic Si as a basket case from the start. I can't justify it for where the price is at.
I can't either. I understand why somebody would buy it to say, hey, good gas mileage, ergonomical, manual car. Okay, cool. Go buy the non-sport edition. Just go buy it to be that. Don't try to be sporty in this car, because you're failing.
I can't imagine how much less fun a regular Civic is, because this was what's supposed to be, what everyone has said forever. It's this tiny little light thing that you can just throw into a corner, light, and it feels like a fucking feather, and it has this nice steering, and you can really just know what's going on with the car, and the turn-in is excellent, especially at high speeds. You can still just snap the car into a corner. The car feels like a tin box and unstable and squirrely.
And not to mention, it bounces when you hit bumps going sideways. Like it feels like the car lifts off the ground.
It just didn't live up to everything I've heard about why it's so great.
Everything. You hear everything. It's awful.
And let's talk about the outside quick. So you've got, at least they don't try to go for crazy, huge, fake, big vents on the outside. They have a nice fog light with a nice chrome strip coming off of it instead of a big fake vent like you'd think they would be doing for their sports car. If you look at the Type R, they really go fucking insane. The spoiler on the back, I'm actually not that offended by it.
I'm not either.
It's fairly smooth. It's nice, decently small. It's in color to the body. It has a tail light on it, like a third brake light.
I don't like that part. That could be taken off and maybe put on top of the trunk. But besides that, I like it.
Okay. It just looks like a pretty normal car.
I don't hate it. Like the exterior styling is decent. Yeah, the exterior styling is not bad. That's the one thing I do not absolutely hate about this car.
It's muted enough that it doesn't upset me. It doesn't scream sports car at me.
But you can tell that it wants to be.
It wants to. It has little tiny features here and there that kind of hint towards, I'm a sports car. Like the can over the back of the muffler, like it has a little 1-inch muffler on it, and then like a big 3-inch kind of metal tube going over it. That's a really terrible excuse for a cover.
It's awful.
For a fake tip.
Yeah, it was really bad.
Not good.
No, the wheels too. The wheels definitely have that sport feel. They're not. Actually, they are disgusting.
I'm not a big fan of these wheels at all.
There's too much wheel.
Thin and then thick. No, I don't like when it's thin in the center and then gets thicker as it gets out towards the outside of the wheel. It's not a good look for me. Makes it look too fat.
I agree.
Don't like it. Move to the interior. They kind of have their excuse for fake carbon inlay with the dash.
There was only one piece of it too, wasn't there?
No, it goes through on the left with the...
Oh, yep, I do see that now.
With the vents, and then it goes through the center console with the radio controls and shit.
Okay, let's do this. Let's start with what we did like about the interior, because that list is much smaller than what we didn't like.
The steering wheel. I like the steering wheel.
The steering wheel was nice, and the seats were comfortable.
The seats were incredibly comfortable.
I agree with that.
I don't like the minimal adjustment with the passenger seat. I think the driver's seat, you could still adjust the thighs, right? Up and down. Is it an 8-way?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, I thought it was. Either way, the seats were comfortable. Even with the minimal adjustability, they were still comfortable.
That's where the list ends for me.
The visibility. You had great visibility in this car because of how forward the windows come all the way up to the A-pillars, and the windshield really wraps all the way around your head.
That's true, yeah.
Great visibility, big greenhouse effect. driving it down the road was really nice. You could see everything that was going on. Oh,
That's it.
Come on.
Yeah,
the pedals were nice looking.
I'm at a
They're
loss for
aluminum
words.
pedal. Okay,
Yeah, I'm
so
at
the
a
rest
loss
of the
for
interior sucks ass.
It's awful.
The way that they have the tack gigantic and right in front of your face, and then 97 inches away from that, all the way up by the windshield, is your speedometer and
So
VTEC gauge.
here's where this car flops. Is the exterior, it's subtly, okay, a little sporty feel. It's cool. You know what? You get in this car and it tries to scream, no, I'm a sports car, believe me. And it fails miserably at even that.
The layout, it just fucking kills me. Like, why is
The screen is offset and like next to the speedometer, and like the buttons are like pushed out into this weird pyramid where it comes off the dash and like face towards the driver.
And the
but
buttons
the screen
are more far to the right than where the
Yeah,
screen
it's
is.
offset.
So you're looking way over to your right.
It's a solid foot away. If you took a ruler and put it between the far right corner of this center layout, and then you put it to the screen, it's like you could fit a ruler.
The actual length of the dash from windshield to the end by the steering wheel right there is at least 2 feet.
And there's
it's huge for no reason in this tiny, tiny little itty bitty car.
And it comes to a point in the middle.
But then somehow you look in the back seat and there's still room. They have this giant dash pushing the driver's position way in the back, and then you get in the back seat, and it's not the most uncomfortable thing in the world.
It's not great.
It's not great, but for being a Civic and being this small and still having a good amount of room up front, it seems pretty spacious to me.
I will say I don't hate the seat design. Looking at the red inlay and stuff.
No, the stitching is nice, and it matches up nice throughout the rest of the car, and it has the red stitching with the steering wheel and in the shift boot, and then the kind of fake aluminum that surrounds the vents and the shifter and on the door panels and the e-brake. I like that it still has a handbrake. It's nice.
It has 2 humps for gauges, though. There's like one where your normal gauge would be, and then like
I really can't get over the dash.
It goes so far forward, like almost into the windshield. It says, "Hey, here's how fast you're going." 2 feet.
The dash is an immediate breaking point for me on ever buying one of these cars.
I would never even consider it. Here's the thing: I hated Civics before this. This only confirmed it for me. There's nothing good.
And we went into it with a decently open mind.
I tried to. I said, let's give it a
try
shot.
a new one.
Yeah.
I haven't really been in one.
I gave it a shot. I really did. I will say, though, the transmission was beautiful on this car.
The actual shifting of the car
felt amazing.
The
it just
gearing,
kicked
too.
you into gear. It was like you didn't even, like, as soon as you let any pressure off the clutch, it's in gear, you're going. You didn't have to apply
the
gas
actual
at all.
feel of the shifter when you're clicking into gears. Like
it
in
was
the
nice.
WRX was
a
fairly plastic
aftermarket.
on plastic.
But it was aftermarket.
But
it
was really solid, but it was still, even with that short shift kit, still felt kind of plasticky.
Yeah.
It was very solid and clicked into place, but it was a nice little plastic feel.
Yeah.
The Honda still had a nice little mechanical metal click to it as you were going into each gear, and you didn't have to really search that far forward for each gear. It just slid right in.
So if you're buying this car for the transmission, great.
Awesome.
You
That's
did a
where it
good
needs
job.
to stop.
That you shouldn't buy this car for any other reason.
Because then you actually start driving the car.
Well, okay, I shouldn't say you shouldn't buy it for any other reason. You should buy it if you want a sporty looking, good gas mileage,
You're a Civic
reliable
guy.
car. That's good.
You need to be a Civic guy to spend $15,000 on an SI.
You do have to be. It's
the
a special,
premium
it's a
that this
niche.
takes over a regular Civic is insane. You can get this year's Civic for $6,000.
If I walked into the dealership and I said my budget's $15,000, what can I get for a manual sports car? And they say, "Oh, we got the Civic," and then they say, if you thought about it, we have the WRX for $18,500 over here. I would say, it's not even me. I don't even have to think about it. I'll go get $3 more grand.
Exactly.
Yeah, like
this is back to the exact same place we were at with the Evo. If you're an Evo fan and you diehard love Evos for what they are,
the Evo is worse.
paying that, yeah, obviously, but paying that premium is that premium. You're going to pay for that car's name. The SI, you're paying that premium on the used market still because it's an SI.
Yeah.
And
For some reason, they have a lot of clout.
for Civic people, that's fine. If this gets it done for you, this gets it done for you. Doesn't get it done for me. when
I
we
go
were
to
driving
I go to a lot of car meets
it's-
and car shows, and you wouldn't believe how many people just roll up in stock Civics though, and they're like, yes, cars, sports cars. I'm a car guy. Like, you can be a car guy and drive anything. I get it.
But for 15,000, you can't
Oh
tell me,
my
I bought this
God.
because it's the cheapest thing and it's the cheapest thing to reliably fix and blah,
You
blah,
can
blah,
buy
blah.
a better car
There
for
are-
like $8,000 and then put $7,000 into upgrading it.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, instead of buying the Civic and
If
saying
you're
it's cheap to
doing the
upgrade.
repairs because you think your Honda is incredibly easy to work on, okay, stop removing clips every time you need to take your bumper apart or you need to take the undershield off. Buy something that needs screws to be taken out, something that's held together properly, something that
Build
is designed,
quality.
something that's designed in a way to where your consumables are designed to be worked on very
man.
easily. I'm not a big fan of Hondas.
They're reliable. That's about all I can say.
They
them.
last forever as long as you're doing your timing belt.
And even still, if it comes down to it, I would buy a Toyota over a Honda. Personally,
You would,
I would.
really.
I just like them better.
I think I would buy a Lexus over an Acura, but I
Absolutely.
think I would buy a Honda Accord over a Toyota Corolla.
No, see, the Civic would be the Corolla, and the Avalon would be the Accord. Yes. And I would take an Avalon over an Accord every day of my life.
I don't think the Accord is the top model from
It is.
Honda, is it?
It is.
What?
Yep. They have the Civic and the Accord, dude. Those are their cars.
I thought they had more shit.
No.
Now I'm blanking on it.
I don't think so.
All right. Well, talk about how you felt driving the Honda for a minute.
All right. Well, there's one word to describe it: disgusting. It was awful. The shifting, great. Everything else, horrible. It's not fast. It doesn't corner. I mean, it corners well. It's a light car, sure, but the suspension that's in this car makes it corner like crap. It's just not. It's not a fun experience. It's not a driver's experience. It's a, hey, I want something reliable, manual, readily available, drive it every day type of car. It's a daily driver. This reminds me of what the GTI would be, except far worse.
The Accord is their highest luxury car.
Yeah, I know.
I'm so dumb. I really thought they had something higher than that.
So now being fed this new information, Avalon or Accord. Avalons are nice, man.
Avalons are so nice.
They're so nice. So it's not
I
even a
just
question.
can't get over the comfort of fucking Honda seats.
They're great.
I get in Toyota seats, and
Then buy a
almost
Toyota
all of
and
them
put Honda
feel
seats in
so flat and just cheap. And
My Accord was
thin.
comfortable. I had a 2006 Accord. It felt modern.
Those
felt
are some of my
comfortable. It was
favorite
great.
seats.
It was
is
good.
Accord seats.
It was good.
The seats in the Accords have always been so comfortable.
I would take an Avalon though.
Would you?
I would.
I think I would take an Accord.
The Accords are nice, but the Avalons are just, I don't know, they're a step above for me.
They are really nice, but everything in them just feels so chintzy and cheap. And
I get it, but if you're trying to get the most for it depends on what you're looking for. It's like my Nissan. Like, I got all these cool features, but it was cheap material.
we'll have to drive one back to back in a week. That'll
we
be a
should try to do
comparison
that,
for
but
1 week.
it's
It'd be a
hard
good
to
one.
get. We're not gonna be able to get into brand new ones, so that's the hard part.
No, yeah, but we'll get into something from like 12, 13.
Now, if I had to take a Civic or Corolla, like of this year, I'd take a Corolla. Sure, whatever. It doesn't matter. They're the same. Like, they're both bad.
Yeah, the interior design of the Civic just kills it. I couldn't take it.
But if we're talking like, no, the new Civics are really ugly too. I just would never buy a Civic, man. I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm sorry to all the people that love Civics, but I'm not sorry. There's better things out there.
It just doesn't work for me when it's taken. I mean, so 6.1 0 to 60
For the Civic,
for the Civic.
that's the
The
same.
WRX was like 5.5.
The GTI was what, 6.2?
6.2.
They're-
And the GTI felt you actually get that turbo with it. There's no.
But the interior was great in the GTI.
And it was. The GTI interior was perfect.
Yeah.
I can't.
And I still would never buy one of those. So that's
No.
how far and away I am from buying this car. It's just not there.
The VTEC, there's no. You got the nice turbo punch in
Not
the
really.
WRX.
Oh, I was gonna say I thought you were trying to say that in the Civic. I'm
No.
like,
In the Civic, you don't get a punch of
There's
any
nothing.
kind from
Even
the VTEC,
you
even
don't
when it
notice
clicks on and it comes in and you get that nice little bar in the fucking
That was cool.
9 million away screen.
I did like the little VTEC gauge.
It's a nice little gauge.
It was cool. It
but
doesn't
you don't
fit the car.
feel anything.
No.
It does fit the car because the car is trying to be an uber sports car.
And the interior, yeah, that's what I hate is that it wants to be. This does what the GTI is trying to do worse than the GTI.
But it really just did not perform.
Oh man, it didn't.
The way that it felt when we were going through a corner, felt like, why is there this much body roll in this small of a car? It feels, yes, the steering is tight. Yes, it turns in very quickly. But as you're turning in, if you try and go, you find the limits of this car so incredibly fast when you're not looking for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All of a sudden, you're driving the car as hard as it can be driven because it's going around a corner and understeering.
This car,
when you would not expect it, and you would think, I should be able to hold through that corner and be stable and not be getting all this body roll. You can feel all your weight transfer.
As an average driver, if you buy a true sports car, that car's limits should, almost exceed yours.
They should be pretty hard to find.
In a car like this, as an average driver, my grandma could find this car's limits. Not like, it's that bad, man.
And the faster you went, the worse it got. When we got up to highway speeds and we were on the freeway,
it just got louder and louder. And
louder and louder. You hear everything that's happening outside of the car to the point where you can't hear what's happening inside the fucking car.
You hit bumps and it feels like the car is leaving the ground.
But then when it does quiet down to where you stop hearing all the road noise, you start to hear all the rattles that have already started on the interior at, 60,000 miles in 2013.
I'm not a fan of this car.
It didn't work for me.
Now, the one they had there, we're not saying that was a bad car. We're just saying the Civic in general is a bad car.
No, the car
theirs was in good shape.
The car fucking ran
if
great.
That's
There's
what you
no
want,
rust on it. There's
if that's
no
what
dings
you want,
in the
it's
doors.
beautiful.
It's a black paint, and it's not even that fucked. It's not. It's not that fucked.
No,
it's
not
black.
That bad. Yeah, it's not that bad.
And it's not that bad. It's a quick. I mean, I wouldn't even go at it with compound. That's a quick polish, and you're good to go.
Yeah, it's a very clean car. It's in good shape.
The interior was nice. What I can say about the seats is that they're incredibly comfortable and they're holding up well. They're fairly bolstered, and the bolsters aren't fucking dying. It's not like, you feel that it feels cheap, the material.
Of course.
But the actual seat itself, they're holding up. The steering wheel, it's not fading and dying everywhere that someone's holding their hands. The buttons aren't falling apart. You just get some rattles because it's a fucking cheap car.
It is. Oh my god.
Every Honda Civic you get, it is going to fucking rattle.
We're gonna end the Honda on this note because I have nothing else to say about it. If you are a Honda person and this is what you're wanting to buy for whatever fucking reason, don't even try to justify it to me because I'll never agree with you. This one's great. Go buy it. Wonderful.
The way that it's priced is actually for what's in Minnesota right now.
It's
for
fair.
What you can find.
It's a good price.
Actually almost the lowest, especially for the mileage.
So it's a great deal. I just personally do not understand your thought process, but that's great. That's why we're different.
If you are interested in that, we forgot to mention when we were talking about the Mercedes. I wanted to mention it right away that to get in contact with Justin Mauricio at Ford of White Bear Lake. You can reach him through the website. You can reach him on. He has his own contact page on there. I wish I had his number sitting in front of me right now, but I do not have his card. We'll get that thrown into the next episode for sure.
Yeah, he's the one that takes care of us at AutoNation.
Yep, he's a salesman there. He does all used cars, all new cars, anything, trade-ins, just the buy-ins. They're always looking for shit to add to their used lot, and he'll go through the whole process with you of getting a decent trade-in value on your car and getting it traded in there, just cash, walk out the door, see you buy.
Yeah, they do. He takes good care of us. We appreciate everything he does.
Really nice guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, we really appreciate going there. If you're interested in the Subaru that we're about to talk about, the Civic is there, and the Mercedes are all at the White Bear Ford.
The Audi is at Daystarr.
Daystarr Motors.
They are also very good. So if you head to either of those places, our friends there will take care of you.
Yeah, I'm actually really happy that we've gotten into a couple of dealerships with people that are actually
car
enthusiasts
people?
about cars.
Well, I feel like those are the types of people we will get in with because they see our passion.
Yeah, we're not just getting into dealerships that are like, oh yeah, give us free advertisement. Yeah, we really need to sell more cars. Yeah, talk about it. Here's our our links and blah.
Yeah,
blah,
they're wanting to help us grow.
They're like, hey, what do you want to drive? You want to drive? Oh, this is a really cool car we just got in this week. Come drive this. Like, it's really nice to actually be in with dealerships that aren't just looking for, someone's coming in to do free advertising. Sure, here you can take 4 minutes with a car and bring it right back.
Yeah, at Ford, they're actually referring people to our reviews if they ask about certain cars and are on the fence about it. They'll say, hey, go check out Season for Speed reviews. They'll say what they like, what they didn't like, talk about
which is really nice. So the actual growth opportunities for the show being with these dealerships that are going to be interacting with us is really helpful with
Yeah,
this.
and hopefully we can help them sell some cars along the way, you know?
It'd be nice. Find some people that are actually interested in the shit that we're talking about here.
Yeah. And not, I mean, like I just mentioned, not only that, you know, they can refer their customers to our reviews and to get a better feel of what the car is, you know?
This WRX that we drove is 3 years newer than the Honda. It is $3,000 more than the Honda.
And 23,000 miles more than the Honda.
23,000 miles more.
Yeah.
It is also not as stock as the Honda. The Honda seemed to be completely stock all the way through and through. This has the... I'm just going to start with the worst mod that all WRX owners do that I hate more than anything in the entire world. And that is the giant colored horns right inside the front grille so that it looks like big turbos. Terrible. Don't like it. It just kind of adds along to the giant fake vents that are down in the bottom of the bumper. And if you follow those around, you can find yourself a nice fake vent at the rear of the fender, front of the front door. And then actually, if you just keep walking back just a couple more feet and stop at the back door, you can find yourself another fake vent on the quarter panel over the rear wheel. But then you walk around to the back, and this guy, I'm fairly certain that this is an aftermarket rear diffuser. It looks really nice.
It does look really good.
It has nice lips that come out on both sides, and then it has fins down the middle. He's blacked out his taillights. Not a fan of that. He still has the stock low-profile duckbill spoiler deck lid. Fan of that. I'm a fan of the really sharp lines that go all the way through the car.
Okay. As far as the front of the car goes, if you like the horns in there, it's done well. Not everybody likes that. You obviously don't like that.
No, very opinionated on that.
Now the mesh grill, he has the mesh top and bottom. That looks really good. Minus the horns, if you don't like the horns, but the grill itself looks really good. I think
that's not stock.
No, it's not stock.
It looks really nice.
Yeah, it does. And the lip that he has on the front also looks really good.
The lip to me looks a little bulbous, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's not too bad. It fits with the rest of the car, though, and what he's trying to do, or what whoever owned this car was trying to do. The giant, hood scoop on the front of all.
That's actually functional. That
Subarus,
goes to your top mount
I like it.
intercooler.
I really do like it.
Yeah, that looks really aggressive and nice.
It's their kind of like stamp on the car. It's like, hey.
I like that the headlights are shrunk down for this year.
Yep.
They used to be a little bit bigger, and I didn't really like how much they took up of the face on the car.
All together. And he has these nice little fins on top of the roof.
Not a fan of those either. That's an Amazon special stick-on.
It is, but it fits.
Along with the window covers.
It fits the style of the car.
Yeah.
I don't know. Regardless, I think the exterior is styled well. If you don't like a couple of them stick-on pieces, you can rip them off. Not a big deal. The exterior is styled well. He has decent taste. There's a few things I wouldn't do, but, again, that's what makes this different. This is not...
I think the WRX... excuse me, in general, looks nice.
Yeah.
In general, the WRX looks nice. I could go without some of the shit that he added to it, but in general, WRXs as a whole,
good. Yeah.
they look good.
They do look good.
This is another one in black that's not completely fucked. Again, one that's just a polish away from being shiny. It has your typical swirl marks of being black, but this guy actually looks like he took care of it when he was washing it. You don't have those obvious marks of somebody scrubbing the shit out of it.
Yep.
It's a pretty clean car. There's no rust all the way around. Pretty happy about that, but it's only 4 years old, so there shouldn't be.
5. We're in 2021 now, my boy.
That's 5 years old. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, wow. Things are getting wild. We're getting old, man.
Yeah. Well, no.
No, we're not. But we are. Yeah, we got years.
They do a much better job with the carbon on their interior.
They do. It doesn't look as fake, and it's more
vents.
It's more tasteful. It doesn't look as fake.
It actually looks like it has some layer to it, like it might actually be a carbon fiber piece.
Honestly, the design of this car inside and out, all the way around, I thought was very well done.
Mm-hmm.
Like I do. Like I don't get in this thing. I'm like, wow, this is disgusting. I'm like, okay, it looks good. It looks sleek and flows into each other well. It feels like a Subaru. All the material is cheap.
Yeah.
It's all creaky. You hear it when you drive down the road. It's a Subaru.
You don't get nearly as much exterior road noise from the Subaru as you did from the Honda.
No. I really like the steering wheel.
It feels better put together.
It does. I really like the steering wheel. The one thing I don't like is on the left side of the steering wheel, there's extra buttons on the top and bottom. If they would have taken
that don't match the right.
Yeah, if they would have you could have made the steering wheel symmetrical by taking the bottom buttons and putting them on the top, or taking the top buttons and putting them on the bottom of the other side.
I will say that the design of the steering wheel minus those buttons. The shape of it, I like it. The feel of it, I don't.
Did you like the flat bottom in this car, though?
Yeah,
Does
I
it
didn't
fit?
mind. I didn't mind it. It fit. I liked that the sides were also kind of flat. It almost looks boxy. The steering wheel. It's pretty nice. It's a good design.
I like the red and black Subaru logo. That looks really good. I think.
Yeah.
On the rear of the car too, the emblem.
Yeah. When he switched those out, that's fine.
No, that might. I don't know if that's like a stock edition of this car. You don't think so?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
The shifter that he has switched out for a short throw
feels amazing.
It feels really, really nice.
It
doesn't feel as extremely mechanical as I'd like it to, but the actual shortness of the shift is beautiful.
So tight too. Like
there's
really
no
play.
There's no play in the shifter one bit.
It was really nice. The thing. So he had a aftermarket head unit in this car. It was wired for subs. It looked like. The thing I did not like about this car is that it has 3 different displays. Right. The third display being the head unit. It's aftermarket, whatever. So that could just be to this car alone. All 3 displays that it had were different. The font, the design, the layout, the coloring, even.
Yeah, not just
brightness.
the information. Like obviously the information is different,
it's
but
everything.
the actual screens themselves
the brightness,
looked like they were out of 3
fonts.
different cars.
Yeah, it did not mix well.
Not cohesive. And even if he didn't have that aftermarket in there, I know what the stock unit looks like, and it has nothing to do with the color scheme of that upper screen or the center screen.
And not to mention the upper screen, which I really was cool because it was a boost gauge.
It was
but
nice.
Right
it was
next,
boost gauge, and it was customizable, and you could pull up a few different things, your radio and not.
And the thing that drew your attention away from this really cool digital gauge that I liked a lot was this big, ugly passenger airbag off or on. It was big.
Like a 3-inch
it was bright
fucking
orange.
light. Didn't turn off. It was terrible. I did not like that.
It was disgusting.
It takes away it really does take your attention away from the nice boost gauge that's in there.
Yeah,
the actual rest of the gauges, the way that they were set up with 2 smaller gauges inside the tach and speedometer was nice.
Yeah, it was
I liked
good.
the setup. Everything was pretty easy to read. The seats may have been a little bit less comfortable, I think, than the SI.
I will say the seats were extremely uncomfortable in this car. They were hard. They felt like wood boards.
The
bolstering was nice, but they were hard.
They hold you very well.
I could not.
I think
road
they hold
trip
you.
this car.
They hold you much better than the Honda, but yeah, these are not plush seats that you could sit in for a long drive.
This is like I'm gonna go an hour and a half, and then my ass hurts.
I need to stand up. Yeah, that's not going to be the place for me for a long time.
No. But like this cockpit isn't really that either. It's not a luxury cruiser. It's like, hey, I want to buy a cheap sports car. And honestly, this fits the bill of a cheap entry-level sports car. You don't have to get a 2016.
I really liked
2010.
I really liked the actual driving of the car.
It was
impressive.
impressive.
It fit sports car to me for entry level.
I will say though, we've driven WRXs before. We've even driven STIs.
Mm-hmm.
This drove like it was not a stock car. This
it
car
drives
was
like
modded.
it has a tune.
It had exhaust. It had a blow-off valve. It felt like it was tuned.
And it feels great.
It was a lot of fun.
It's still not the fastest thing in the world.
But it feels
It definitely
fast.
feels faster than the 5.5 posted 0 to 60.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, though, is when you're driving this car, you're having so much fun driving it. It's whipping you around, throwing you around comfortably, under control.
Because when you're actually driving the car through corners, the way that this car will stay in boost as you're flipping through the gears and slowing down and speeding up and slowing way down and downshifting and keeping yourself in boost in this car, it's a lot of fun because you're constantly getting that really nice torque shove from being in boost, and every time you hit the gas, it's extremely responsive. The steering in the car feels really tight. The turn-in feels really tight.
Not a lot of dead zone.
Not
very
top
numb
of it.
either.
No,
you could feel the road.
Yeah, everything you were going over, you could actually feel. It didn't feel like as much of a video game as I thought it was going to.
And like this car is not slow. That's not what I'm saying. But you're ripping through these gears. You're taking corners and stuff.
And the gearing's pretty short.
I
liked how short the gearing was.
It is pretty short. Yeah, that was another thing that we noticed. But as you're ripping around, you're thinking, "Oh man, I'm hauling." You look down and you're like surprised by how fast you're not going, but how much fun you're having.
And by not pushing the car
to the
fucking
this car
limit
has
to get there.
much higher limits than this Civic.
And it's as you're just driving this WRX around and just cruising and trying to have a little fun and whipping through some corners, you don't have to give full throttle input and full brake and go for the max race line, and you don't have to try and drive the car hard to have fun in it. Really had to try to drive the Civic.
The nice thing about this week is that we had some pretty good roads. There were some ice patches, but for the most part, we had good roads, so we could get on these a little bit and see, what they had. We're obviously not beating on these cars. They're not our cars to beat on, and we want to stay in with these dealerships. We respect their stuff, but we get to push them a little harder when there's not snow on the ground, so we get a better feel for how they perform. And this car
highly outperforms the
yeah,
Civic.
like I remember when we were getting into it, I've always kind of liked them. I would never buy one because they're not super reliable.
It used to be a dream of yours to have a STI.
I know, and then I got smart about
driving them, and you started getting into some stuff, and I'm like, hey, check out Germany. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And here you are.
But when we were getting into this car, you're like, I don't think I'm going to like it very much. You got behind the wheel of this thing, and you got big grin on your face. You're like, it was fun. You got out of the car, you're like, I'm impressed.
I had genuine fun in the car.
Yeah.
I really thought I was going to get in, and it's going to be, this.
Like the Evo, super underwhelming. Like, has all this hype for nothing.
An issue of an underwhelming video game car, and that's not what I'm saying about the Evo. The Evo is not video game at all. It was very direct and very mechanical feeling, and you got that nice rod.
But my
feeling,
point was
nice
it was extremely underwhelming.
And it was, but it was still underwhelming for what it should have been hyped up to be.
Yeah.
The WRX with, I can really see why I see 5 of these every time I go out on the road. It's because they're fun to fucking drive, they're affordable, and the performance that you're getting and the amount of different modifications that are out there for the car.
Oh, they're crazy. There's
so many. I think
many.
Set this way apart from the Civic, with it especially being a front-wheel drive car and seriously being outperformed by this, especially with the all-wheel drive, and you're not getting any kind of overly heavy artificial steering feel from that all-wheel drive being there. You still get a nice light steering that's nice and direct, but still feels like
the car felt light on its feet. Like it had understeer for sure.
It feels heavier than the Civic, yes.
Yeah,
but it still feels very light on its feet. Yeah.
Now, just to brush over the topic a little bit, we've driven STIs before.
Mm-hmm. And in a couple of weeks, once it warms up, we will be driving, I believe, a 2018 STI.
That would be awesome. The thing is, I don't think the price difference between this and the STI is worth it when you can put that money into upgrades for this car.
We'll find out when we actually drive the STI of similar
year
here.
I know.
We've driven older STIs.
I think they were like 2011, 2012, though.
There's an upgrade after that.
Yeah, I know. But you get the general idea, and the price difference is fairly significant. I bet you an STI, same year, same miles, would be $6-7 grand more.
Yeah. And those hold their value like crazy, the STIs do.
Which, that's a good thing about them.
And that's another niche market kind of thing of you need to know the STI to buy it. The WRX is kind of I'm going to get that sports feel. And you actually really do get it.
You know what's crazy to me is that you got these Subaru people and these Mitsubishi people, and they're like rivals. Evo better than the STI. Like, that's just kind of like a thing. But you can get a 2016 tastefully modded WRX for the same price as a 2001 Evo that needs significant work.
Significant amount of work, and you're getting so much more.
And a salvage title. Prior
you're
getting
more in every department.
Well, it's fucking 15 years newer.
Every department.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And performance alone, it's blows it out of the water.
I was really surprised by this car and really a lot bigger fan of it than I thought I was going to be.
And it didn't feel like a boat because they're not small cars.
No.
They're not big, but they're not small.
But it's not like you set it next to some other compact sedans, like even the SI. The SI, you sit them next to each other, the SI looks a lot smaller.
It does.
But you get on the inside actually feels a lot bigger.
I bet you the SI is
significantly
lighter, though.
It felt it. And
it's going to be because the all-wheel drive system just
so
adds
much,
the weight.
So much more spacious in the SI for whatever reason, even though you had that gigantic dash.
Yeah. And the seats were more comfortable. That's all I can give it, though.
Yeah, is that the seats were a little more comfortable, but I still, even with these seats being uncomfortable, I would still want the ride of this over the SI because this still ate up bumps better, even though it maybe had a firmer suspension and held a corner a lot better. It still rode better on the street.
Well, you didn't hear everything, and you didn't feel like you're bouncing off the ground when you hit a corner. Like when you take really a corner kind of fast, and there's a big bump, and the rear end kind of like lifts up and. Mm-hmm. You feel like you got that a lot in the Civic, and you didn't get that at all in this car.
It felt squirrely.
Yeah, it was squirrely.
The WRX was a much more planted car.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're ending on WRX over Civic.
Yeah, it's not even a question.
For what they're for, and then the Audi with the Mercedes. Again, you're looking at what they're for and what you're actually going to buy it for. Going with that Audi over the Mercedes.
Yeah. The only time you take the Civic over the WRX is if you're looking for gas mileage. That's it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it's been a good week. I hope you guys liked with us doing these two comparisons. In the future, we're going to be trying to get 3 cars that we can get into a bigger comparison of 3 cars against each other instead of 2 and 2. Kind of be flipping back and forth depending on what's available, where we go.
And we want to keep it interesting, so we don't want to hop in like a Chevy Equinox and like, you know what I mean? We want to give you guys stuff that you want to hear.
And we're still searching private parties and finding local cars that we can drive, not necessarily ones that are even for sale. We're getting into cars that aren't for sale, kind of building up our own stash of driving experiences so that when we have a lull in a week where we can't get into cars at the dealership, we're able to give you guys still reviews of comparable cars that we've driven.
Yep. So that's all we have for you this week. Tune in next week for another great episode.